All right, good afternoon, evening for me, but hello everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm your host, Jacob Geisler, here with GU Energy Labs for another edition of ABCs of Sports Nutrition, or Intro to. And I've got some great guests with me tonight, a lot of brains in the room, but some really great athletes joining me this evening. And what we're going to talk about in particular is flavor science, and does flavor help make you go faster and ultimately feel better? And so, without bogging everybody down with what I do, I would love to get some introductions going and tell everyone who you guys are. Karen, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'm Karen Jarko. I am a professional mountain bike and gravel racer for Team Toe Peak Ergon. And I also own and operate a kids mountain bike camp in my hometown here in Eagle, Colorado. And I am additionally a assistant marketing director for Ergon Bike. So I wear a few hats.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Nikki, kick it off.
My name is Nikki Peterson, and I am similar to Karen, different hats. I am a professional mountain bike racer with KS Kenda Women, a team that Jen, Emma, and I co-founded. I'm also the program coordinator for the SoCal chapter of NICA, who's been a wonderful sponsor for that. And then I am a coach for Source Endurance, so a cycling USAC level 3 coach.
Very cool. Very cool. Max.
Yeah, similar. It sounds like we all just kind of combine everything together, but
Yeah.
I'm a professional runner for Psalm and running, and also do a series of youth camps in my hometown and around the Pacific Northwest, and then work at a running store, and then combine everything together to make it all work.
Cool, cool. Jen.
Yeah, so shocker, similar thing. I wear many different hats. So
Yep.
I'm a professional mountain biker for the KS Kenda Women, and I also race cyclocross professionally as well. I'm the league director and the person leading the charge for the Ohio NICA team, which will be launching in the fall next year. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Very cool.
And then off the bike, I actually am a postdoctoral fellow. So I do research at the Eye and Ear Institute for Ohio State.
Oh, that's very interesting. And so, not for nothing, but I asked Jen prior to this call if she would politely go last, because I wanted to call her out on a question she asked all of us via email when we were coordinating this call. And she asked all of us, for example, if we notice when certain flavors tend to be more popular during different seasons, when, like winter, when we have stuffier noses, versus in the summertime when we're wearing less clothing. So Jen, if you don't mind, before in depth on what flavor science is and if flavor does make you faster, can you expound on when you talk to us about detecting aroma?
Yeah, so part of my job is actually taking patient CT scans and converting them into computer models where we can simulate airflow. And part of that is when you breathe in and detect an aroma, there's actually particles that are being deposited on your olfactory region. So my thought is, if your nose is stuffier, you actually, or you have an obstruction, you're getting less deposition of those particles. So I was really interested to see how that would affect our perception of taste and flavor, or I guess flavor with taste.
Yeah, definitely. And so when you first learned about this or heard of it, did you make the connection of like, yes, I've experienced that before, or I never noticed that, I'm going to pay attention from here on out, or both?
Yeah, I'd say it was a little bit of both. So another thing that we do in our lab is we actually look at smell sensitivity. And interestingly, when you're learning these tests and how to conduct them with patients, you do like a sample version on yourself. And I found out that I, in fact, am not a super smeller.
Yeah.
My sense still is not great. But then I was kind of thinking about it, and in terms of flavors when writing, I'm not particularly picky, and that kind of got me thinking. I wonder if my, lack of detection of the aroma could be playing into these sensations of flavor.
Yeah, and so that's really great to kick us off with this topic, because I wanted to cover a few things without getting PhD level science education, but just so people can understand, when we talk about flavor and taste and aroma, we're talking about different things. And so to start at the top, the connection between, and I have my notes here, that's why I'm glancing off screen, but taste, aroma, and flavor. Flavor aroma and taste are not interchangeable. A lot of people think that and they're often confused. So if you can think about the five basic senses that humans have: touch, sight, hearing, smell, and taste. Taste is composed of sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and savory qualities and texture. So, for example, sour is a taste, while lime is a sour flavor. And this will all make sense when we start talking about Goo Energy Labs and how we pick the many flavors that we have. But aroma, which is what Jen was talking about, is the smell detected by our noses and sensed by the part of the brain that deals with emotions, behavior, motivation, and long-term memory. Pretty interesting. So flavor is the intersection of those two. This is super interesting because our brains can transform aroma and taste and texture into an experience. And so if you've ever noticed when you're running, cycling, swimming, whatever the case may be, hiking up a mountain, when you're craving something, or you might be in the mood for something, it's that intersection of aroma and taste that make you feel something and sense something. And ultimately, if you can connect that energy gel flavor, for instance, with what you're feeling, hopefully it'll make you feel better and ultimately go a little bit faster. So to go around the room again, I want an experience. I want to know what you guys have experienced in the past and what you're feeling and thinking. But kick us off with, we'll start with Karen again, how you're handling the pandemic, what your favorite Goop product and flavor is, but then give us a brief experience of like, you know what, every time it's a hot race or run, I'm always going for sea salt chocolate and it's, dug me out of a hole, or whatever you can think of.
Oh man.
On the spot.
I've been treating COVID as this great COVID pause. So I'm
Mhm.
actually not training at all. I'm also coming off of a major hip surgery. So I'm gradually just getting back into riding. And then with not having any races, I've actually gotten back into running a little bit. And I live in Colorado, so it's been great to get up in the high alpine. So I'm doing, like today, I just did a multi-sport day, which was amazing. So I've noticed that I'm loving the Boone waffles.
Yep.
I don't know if we can, yeah.
We can, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no, they launched in August, and so we want to talk about it. Good picking up on cues, but what's your favorite flavor?
The ginger, is it like, what is it? Ginger spice or?
Yeah, well, so there's cinnamon spice, vanilla cardamom, and ginger something or other.
Well,
but
I love
ginger.
all of them, but
Okay.
I like the ginger one the best. And I think it's just because, I don't know why, but when I'm trail running or hiking or scrambling, I get so much more hungry than when I'm on the bike. Like when I'm on the bike, I kind of crave more just pure sugars. And I don't know if that's just the intensity in which I'm operating. I'm probably
Sure.
much more efficient on the bike than I am on, I call it foot sporting because
Yeah.
I don't really believe I'm a trail runner.
Yeah.
More of like a combo of like hiking and scrambling and some running. So it's foot sporting.
Mhm.
And so I really like the solid foods, and then I just really like the ginger too.
Yeah, and so you are right. It is sweet ginger is the flavor.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I like
Nikki.
COVID. Yeah, I think everyone can agree that there are waves in COVID. So I've had times where it's like the best day ever and things are going great, and then other days where it's like you feel like you're in a slump. But I've used COVID as an opportunity to really get in some solid training. And so for me, that's a lot of really long days, like 4 or 5 hours on the bike.
Mhm.
I unfortunately have not done any foot sporting. I've only been on the bike.
Yeah.
But I've gone on some really amazing adventures. And I think it has kind of brought me back to like focusing on my nutrition a lot, because if you're going out for a really long day, you need to make sure you're getting enough calories, enough carbs, enough
Sure.
electrolytes.
Mhm.
And so when it's hot, I actually typically go for the chews. I pulled out my favorite ones. I really like the watermelon.
Yeah.
So I tend to go for chews instead of the gels, but I always carry the birthday cake gel with me because it's like the one thing where if I'm in a hole, like mentally it makes me happy. Like I love the flavor. I love the colors on the packaging too.
Yeah.
And so like I save it. It's like my reserve. So if I am like bonking or even just in a bad headspace, like
Yeah.
this is what I do.
That's awesome that you made the connection of like it makes you happy because to be fair, before I learned about flavor science, I wouldn't have ever said that a goof flavor makes me happy, especially when I'm suffering in a workout. So that's cool that you can make that connection. And I think ultimately that's what we're trying to expound on is that these flavors and experiences matter and they can help make you feel things. But Max, talk to us about real foot sporting.
Foot sporting. I love that. Foot
Yeah.
sporting.
I've
I'm gonna
gotten
start
mixed
calling it foot
reviews from
sporting.
like actual runners with that
Really?
term. So
You're
I'm
gonna
glad
get
you
a real
like
review
it.
now. Yeah.
No, go with it. It's awesome. That's
Yeah.
great. Foot sporting is
Run with it,
perfect.
if you will.
Yeah, go with it. Yeah,
Mhm.
run with it. That's good.
Okay.
So the COVID's been, I mean, surprisingly good. You know, I've with no races or anything, we're not traveling. So I've been able to train a lot more. I've been doing adventures and stuff that I wouldn't normally get to do. Spending a lot more time with the family. We've been backpacking with the family, camping with the family, all that sort of stuff. So like, it's amazingly positive, I guess. Now the kids are going back to school next week, and that may change next week. So we'll see. But so far, so good with all of that. I spent a lot of really fun adventures this summer and did a cool 40-mile run through the Olympic National Park just yesterday, and that was amazing. So that was cool. And a lot of flavor stuff going on out there yesterday through 10 hours of just strenuous up and down mountains. So one thing I reached for in my bag, I was like super excited to see in there after a couple of gels was one of the Boone Stroop waffles. It was the cardamom one.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, it's a little bit of like solid crunch, a little bit of like, not quite as sweet. And it was just like, was the perfect thing at that moment after, so many gels and stuff. But one thing I will say is like, my flavor profiles in my mouth are way off of everybody else's. And so I have this box of cucumber mint gels or goos that I've
way
had
off
for a
of
while.
everyone else's. You might be the only one left that likes that flavor.
I love those. So I've been working through those this summer with all the different stuff, and with no races and stuff. I've actually I've been using a lot more goo products and stuff, and kind of all across the range. Like sticking with races, I always use gels, and that's it. So this summer I've been using gels, I've been using chews, I've been using waffles, I've been using the new liquid energy, which is amazing. It's like a fresh, like cool waterfall of liquid energy in your mouth, and it's
Plus on that one. Yeah.
Especially like the lemonade one. And so just like rotating through like each of the products, like really kind of helps you to, I don't know, just keeps it kind of fresh in what you're doing. So
to piggyback on that and Nikki's comment, I was thinking about the happiness, and I particularly like the Cola Me Happy flavor. Now I'm connecting. I'm like, oh yeah, I work for the company, and maybe that's why they call it Cola Me Happy to make people. Anyways, Jen, let's hear what you got.
Yeah, so kind of similar to what everyone was saying about COVID. It's from work, it's been a little stressful, but honestly, it's been good from a riding standpoint. Usually I'm used to kind of finishing a long cross season and then having a very short window to recover, and then kind of a short base building for mountain bike. Whereas like this year, I've been able to just focus on doing longer rides and skill sets and really kind of get into different parts of cycling, because I came into it racing. I never really rode as like a kid or anything, so I just went straight into racing. But yeah, so doing fun rides. Like this past weekend, we did a ride to Dayton because one of my friends wanted to do a century, and I was like, well, Dayton's like, it'll only be 4 more miles. It's fine. Let's just do it. And so we woke up at 3 a.m. and rode to Dayton to get to the pastry shop when they opened, and then back.
Yeah. That's insane. So what's the go-to flavor on a ride like that?
Yeah, so that one was actually interesting because it was like 8 hours of riding. And so I typically stagger my rides, where I'll do like a French toast at a time.
Sweet one.
Yeah, and that was actually my favorite flavor. Since the smell isn't fantastic, a lot of my flavor perception is based on texture. So in the summer, I typically like to have a little bit less viscous or more runny gels.
Sure.
So that like the French toast is a really nice balance. And also at like 3 a.m. I was like, it's a breakfast food.
Yeah, I don't even know what I would crave at 3 in the morning.
I know.
Probably nothing.
I was like surprisingly energetic.
Yeah, no, I can
my
imagine.
friends.
I've heard that from French toast and cold brew coffee, espresso love, good breakfast flavors for sure.
Yeah, and then like towards the end of that ride, you know, as you do tend to get like a little bit more flavor fatigue, I actually have this really, to me it's good, but like some people may think it's weird recipe of, they're like my rice bars, and I actually use, so I'll like make sushi rice, and then I put the French toast goo in the rice and mix it with soy sauce and then chia seeds, and then I just put it in the fridge, and so you kind of get the salty from the soy sauce, but you also get a bit of savory as well. So that's kind of how I like round out the end of my rides.
That's insane. It sounds so good. Can you send around that recipe after this? I would love to try that, and I'm sure others would as well. And I didn't think you were going to say, the whole time you were saying that, I thought she's going in the salty direction. Like, who doesn't crave salt near the end of the ride, but you brought it home with the French toast, and you're right, it probably does blend pretty nicely.
Yeah,
especially after a 10-hour day, 8-hour day.
Yeah, and I actually you can sub in the ginger goo as well.
Okay.
If you want like a bit more bitter.
Yeah, so that's a great point. We're going to talk about bitter being actually better here as we inch along in this Facebook Live. But I want to pause for a minute because we got a question from Dave in the chat, and Dave must have been reading my mind, because where I was going with next, I want to know, and Jen kind of talked about it, you all kind of tiptoed around what you like in the longest of long. And I know you guys go long in terms of endurance exercise. So Dave asks, would there be reasons to use some flavors earlier in a long ride or event or run versus in the middle or later? And so I know how I would feel, but I'm interested in your guys' experience. And Jen, you kind of touched on it, 3 in the morning, I want pancakes, I want French toast. And so that makes sense. And so we'll go back to Karen. What do you do, or what does it look like in the beginning of a long effort versus middle and end?
Survival versus
yeah.
like
the fun goes away.
Bad sometimes, because nutrition is honestly not my strong point at all. So it's, for me, it's just like, when I think about like, maybe let's just do like a 3-hour event. Early on, I'm just trying to, usually it's like easier for me to have chomps early on.
Yep.
And then later on, I'm just like literally getting anything into my face as I can. Like usually then it's like, if we were racing now, I really think the liquid energy would be a great benefit to later on in a race, just because it's really easily consumed and digestible. I've loved it so far, but I think that and maybe Roctane later on in the events would be the easiest way for me to consume calories in the proper.
Yeah, so as the effort increases, taking a little bit off of your plate in terms of, I mean, pun intended, but taking on a less viscous product would be preferred, it sounds like.
Yeah, just like get it in as fast as it can get in there.
Yeah. Do you find that you crave maybe less sweets or more fruit toward the end?
I'm not a sweet person at all for like, I'm definitely more of a salty, savory.
Same here.
And especially later on, I just get like sweet fatigue. I just can't do so much sugar. Or just like, I don't think I've ever really gravitated towards any like fruity flavored gel, or everything for me is like salted caramel or the coffee. And so, yeah, I've just not really been so later on, definitely not sweets.
Sure. So no birthday cake for you at the end of the
funny thing. So Fat Bike World Championships or any kind of fat bike event that I did, that I love, because it just tastes like, I don't know why, but when you're like out in, I think Fat Bike World was negative 26 degrees Fahrenheit. I was just like, cake. It was so good. It just tastes like frosting. So I don't know if that's a temperature thing or, or what, but, or just
Well,
maybe.
Nick, yeah, definitely. And Nikki, I have a feeling what you're going to say, but go ahead. Same question.
I think actually Karen just like nailed a couple of really good points. The first one is that like flavor fatigue typically happens first with sweet things.
Yep.
So when you do longer rides, like it totally makes sense to me that you would not crave the sweet things later on in the ride.
Mhm.
So even though I do like the birthday cake, I think I'm really similar to Karen. When it is later in the ride, like I typically would go for like the salted caramel or more of like a savory flavor, I guess.
Mhm.
But I also rely heavily on the Roctane drink mix, the grape. Like even though it technically is sweet, I find it easier to drink my calories later in the ride because I don't always like have the appetite for it.
Sure.
Um, but the other thing that has actually saved me is the goo electrolyte tablets have helped me in the past too. I know you don't get calories from that, but
Do you
it's
find that the taste is, yeah, the taste is a little bit less potent? Do you
yeah,
find that to be helpful?
yep,
Yeah, that would make sense. I'm on the same page as that for sure.
yeah, um, yeah. And um, so I typically for shorter stuff, like I can do sweet stuff more than if it's a longer ride.
Sure. And Max, what about you? Can't wait to hear this.
Actually, I guess I'm pretty similar to Karen, and I do a lot of the same things. But I am definitely like kind of a sweet tooth, and I like the fruity flavors and stuff. But there's always a time when that like fatigues out. But so if I'm doing something really long, then usually what I'll tell other people too, and what I'll do is start actually with solid foods so that I can prolong that kind of flavor fatigue on the sweeter flavors, so that I kind of move down the line from like solid food to less and less viscous and get more and more watery. Just I mean, you're obviously probably becoming more and more dehydrated too, so the more water you can get in toward the end of it with the calories is kind of helpful. And so usually I'll kind of progress down that line, and usually like if it's warm at all, I'm sticking with just fruity flavors. I can't
Yep.
do anything that is like a chocolate, a coffee, a caramel, any of those flavors unless it's cold on my long runs in the winter. And that's the only time I ever do those. I love them then, but that's the only time I ever do them. And anytime I'm racing or anything, it's all fruit all the time. And even with that, I've had some pretty bad flavor fatigue, after your 70th like blue palm Roctane gel. And you're just like done with it.
Yeah.
But so that's why like prolonging it and stuff, I've started to mix other things in with solid foods in the beginning, and then going through that progression of gels, and then trying to do like a Roctane drink mix, like somewhere in the middle, kind of evening that out. And my favorite is the grape one, but putting that in there kind of helps to even that out. It's a little more refreshing and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I'll like mix that up so I don't get that flavor fatigue. But I'm definitely a very fruity person. So
It's the purple
Yeah,
drink.
I'm there. Yeah, the purple drink. I'm all
yeah.
fruit all the time for sure. But Jen, wrap it up.
Yeah, so my friends always make fun of me because I have a pouch in front of my bike where I basically have a goo buffet, as they like to call it. So I usually try and front load my rides with using the Roctane drink mix, and I actually don't prefer the grape because I have that association with like being sick and only having grape medicine for like a
Yep.
month. So like
I've heard that
that
before.
memory is ingrained. But I love the berry, the lemonade berry.
Hmm.
And then I actually will put one of the strawberry lemonade hydration tabs in my water with that drink mix as well. And again, I think that plays into like not necessarily being super sensitive with smell. But so I'll typically do that in the beginning. And then towards like the end of the ride, I'll actually start, or end middle, I'll start having some of the stroops, or stroop waffles. And the campfire s'mores is one of my favorite ones. Just because I'm not a big like sweet fruit or like sweet fruity type of person. Like I don't really even like gummy candies, but I can get down on eating pounds of chocolate.
Yes.
So,
That's good.
yeah, that's kind of where I go. And then I also one of the things I do is I'll have a little bit of like seltzer water in some of my bottles, or like one of my bottles, so that way like it'll kind of act to help cleanse like my tongue palate if I just feel that buildup. So if I'm going on a super long ride, I'll actually keep a bottle of seltzer water.
That's so good. I mean, the tips that are coming out of this Facebook Live are insane. So to round it all up, it sounds like the general consensus is lean into fruit for the longer efforts, and flavor fatigue usually sets in with earlier on when you're dealing with the sweeter birthday cake, French toast, chocolate outrage. And for those that don't know, flavor fatigue is simply you're just sick and tired of a certain flavor or a flavor profile. It can be I'm sick of sweet and I want salt, or it can be sick of salt and I want sweet. For me, it's like I'm sick of all of it and I want pizza, but I haven't made a pizza flavored gel yet. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but what is also the general consensus is it sounds like you guys hit the nail on the head when it comes to texture, and that you will, to prolong the flavor fatigue or the texture fatigue, you will alternate texture and viscosity over the length of an event so that you can drink, eat, slurp, chew, whatever it is that you want, even if it's a rice cake or you're making your own food like Max. I mean, starting with solid or alternating with a solid-ish product, alternating in a drink, liquid energy, what have you, will tend to, and I'm going to try the seltzer water. That's super genius. But this is all super good information, and I know our audience is going to like it. And we have another question coming in on the chat from Lauren. She says, I actually spend some time thinking about the gels that I bring with me in the sequence I use them. Is that unusual to think about using gels in a sequence and having like a 1, 2, and a 3? I don't think I could eat the same flavor repetitively. And I'll use a funny story as an example, and I won't use his name, but I know a sales rep that has done many Ironman races and just will pound vanilla bean gel after vanilla bean gel. And I think, 24, 25 in a row, vanilla bean. I could never do that. And you guys are shaking your head. It sounds like if planning out when you're going to take flavors and products is not unusual, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think something that brings to Lauren's point is that also, like, all of this takes a lot of training. Like, I think with this panel, there's a lot of years of experience there. And so you do also have to kind of like train your gut. Like some people are really sensitive to eating on the bike. I think Jen could actually attest to this. She worked with a sports dietitian just to be able to take a gel before a race. And so it does take a lot of figuring out what works for you, what flavors work for you. I agree with Lauren though. I like to kind of rotate as well. Like I always save my birthday cake, but if I go on a ride, like I like patterns.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, and actually, I label my lids on my water bottles, and they have numbers, and so it's convenient that I'll like put my drink mix for like my first hour, because I try and have one bottle an hour, then the second one, so that way, as I'm like pulling them out of the different bags on my bike, I can make sure that I'm one, getting the nutrition I need when I need it, and two, that I'm like I found what works for me flavor wise.
Yeah.
For years, I would stick with one flavor, just Blue Palm. And I did that for several years from all of my races. Like it was Blue Palm Roctane, because I just knew that it worked and I was fine with it in the moment in the race. And just it's probably been the last year where I've actually started to substitute other flavors in. And I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm willing to try it now because I'm a little, I don't know, I'm just older, more wise, And so I'll tuck in some other flavors into my belt, because on the bike it's harder, or when you're running it's harder to look. I don't have that luxury of being on a bike of like seeing what I've got. So mine's like tucked in a pouch and I'm just like grabbing stuff out. Sure. And so I'll grab one out and it'll be like, I wonder what it's gonna be. And it's like comes out with like Cola Me Happy. I'm like, ooh, cola. And it's like a surprise every time I take it out. And I never get to the point, like I want to keep things as simple as possible. So I never want it to get to that point of like, okay, I got to have this gel this time and kind of go in this rotation. So like I've just kind of, just the surprise of it now is kind of fun, and just trying different flavors out on races and stuff. And it usually works out.
That's a good perspective to have. But what I want to know is what's the most consecutive Blue Palms you've taken in a row?
No, I was actually serious with the 70.
70, that was a real number.
That was a real number.
And in what time interval? Every 45 minutes?
No, every 20 minutes.
Mhm.
Western States 100 back in 2014 when I did that.
Yeah,
It was a blue palm roctane every 20 minutes.
we need to call Guinness up, and I think that's a world record.
It
That's
possibly
incredible.
could be,
Yeah.
yeah. And so by the end of that, that was bad. Like that was flavor fatigue. Like,
Sure.
Yeah,
and so you can go back to those for like at least a few races.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you said I haven't gone back since.
I know, and that's the thing. It's like I still like them and I still use
Yeah,
them because I
I
think it's
mean,
works.
yeah, I mean, props to those making the goo gels at our Berkeley
That's right.
manufacturing, because if it doesn't flavor fatigue you after 70 of them, I mean, we must be doing something right.
That's right. Either that or I've just got a hard head.
That's I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
Karen.
I guess, I mean, to answer her question, yeah, that's totally normal. Especially if it works for you. I think, especially with nutrition, it's completely personalized. What works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for another person. But if she found that pattern is what works for her, I think that's awesome.
Sure.
With patterns, I would always do 1 bottle Roctane, 1 bottle water, 1 bottle Roctane, 1 bottle water for like a 50-mile, maybe 4-hour race. That's how I would circle through those calories. And then I would just supplement with goo chomps. And then I finally got to the point where I was like, so you said you have the little bag on your bike, Jen. So that's a bento box. And I've been making fun of them for years until I actually realized how effective they were. And I'm a big advocate of them now. Because if I see it, I'm going to eat it. So what I do is I just do like a big plethora of chomp flavors, and I just have them out of the package and it's unzipped and right there. So I'll pop one in every 20 minutes, try to. And then, so I guess those were my patterns that worked for me.
That's super cool. And I want to circle back on something, because through my time at GOO, educating in the field, one of the number one most asked or most brought up point, Jen, you touched on this a little bit, but you couldn't take a gel at the start of a race, and you actually worked with a sports dietitian. I know there are dozens, if not hundreds or thousands of people that experience the same thing, particularly with a gel. And for you in particular, was it taste, texture, anxiety? What was it that was keeping you from? And then we'll go around, and I want to hear everyone's take on this.
For me, I think it was actually a combination of the texture and then the amount of caffeine that was in it. I'm naturally a very, very high energy person. And in general, like caffeine affects me quite significantly. Nikki can attest to this. And so what we ended up doing is when I had every day I'd have VO2 efforts, what I'd have to do is I'd pick a new flavor, pick a, goo like gel that I was sticking with for that week to try out. And I would have to take the gel and then go do my VO2 effort.
Yeah. And this was just a workout. It wasn't even a race that you were practicing. So this is good. You were literally like, I'm putting into practice what I hope to put into play come race day. And that's that practice nutrition that we always talk about.
Yeah. And the winner ended up being the ginger. So.
Oh yeah. We're hearing ginger a lot in this Facebook Live. I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah.
What about you, Nikki?
I actually started as a runner. And they used to call me the iron stomach because I would eat like spaghetti and pizza, and then we go do like 12 400-meter repeats when I was like 13.
Yeah.
So my stomach is pretty like ironclad. But I do take like a gel right before I ride, and then kind of like Jen, like I practice how I race, or I try to. That way there's no like curveballs. I love the idea of Max like reaching into the surprise bag to see what he's going to get. But I just don't know if that would work for me. Like, I guess I like to have a certain amount of control over what I can. And so I think it's important what you said is like, you don't want to get so locked in that it's like, oh no, I have to have a Gingerade gel as my third gel in the ride, or else it's going to go not well. So I think it's important to have some flexibility. But for me, I also like knowing like what works.
Yeah, definitely. So Max, with all of that 70 times blue palm and the surprise bag, have you ever experienced any any trouble getting the nutrition down early in
just
your days?
just that one time.
Yeah, just the one.
No, like I'm kind of like Nikki, like iron stomach. Like I'll do food races, and like
Mhm.
I can eat a pizza and then go run, and it's no problem. So I've never had like an issue like getting gels down or anything. But that was the one time where I'm just like, yeah, I can't do another gel. And I was actually like actively having issues. And toward the end of this race, I stopped taking gels because I'm like, oh, my stomach's all messed up, and it was kind of starting to like slosh around and everything. And so I stopped taking gels, and then I bonked. Like
Mm.
like 5 miles later, I'm like, oh crap, I gotta take something. I don't know if I can. And so I shoved the gel down my throat, and then like within 5 minutes, I felt fine again. And so it
Oh,
was like it's that kind of thing of like I just need to make myself do it.
yes.
And I never really have any issues with my stomach, which is great. That's definitely a positive for
Yeah.
sure when you're
And so
running in these.
yeah, definitely. So for you and Nikki, would you attribute that to just happenstance? You guys got lucky with iron stomachs, or did it come with practice and repetition?
I don't know. I don't know, Nikki, I don't know. You can maybe attest to this, but I've always been like that. I mean, in college, I was the dining hall champion. Like there's this race where you eat 6 meals and run 3 miles within the race. And
Oh,
I
Or like
was,
beer mile,
Perfect.
right?
well, I've never done a beer mile on it, to be totally honest with you, but I just we did from my house, this like with COVID, we did a taco mile, which was awesome on May 5th. And we did a donut mile on National Donut Day, which was awesome. And it's like the both of those are like, they were a lot of fun, and everybody else was like, oh god, that sounds awful and stuff. So those are, I don't know, to me, like that kind of stuff is a lot of fun, and totally is fine. I don't know. And then I adventure raced for a while, where you'd come into a checkpoint, slam down like a Whopper or a half a pizza, and then take off again and go. And
Yeah,
so I've just never had that issue. So
yeah. Nikki, you've always been.
Yeah, I have, and I think there's definitely some genetics that go into play there.
Sure.
But again, it just goes to like, if you haven't ever tried to slam a Whopper during exercising, like,
Sure. Yeah, it's gonna backfire.
yeah, it's gonna backfire. And so I do think it like, I'm not saying that the pizza always was a good idea before 400-meter repeats. I'm just saying that oftentimes it would be okay. So I
Right.
definitely have had some bad experiences too, but I mean, if you don't try it, you'll never know, right?
That's right. Yeah.
exactly. No, you'll never know. That's why I always tell somebody, like, if they want to eat something, I'm like, yeah, try it. What's the worst that's gonna happen? You
Right.
know?
Try 70 of the same flavor in a row. What's the worst that could happen?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not on like a goal race you've been working for
Sure.
like 6 months, but
Yeah.
you know.
So Karen, touch on tips and tricks for those struggling with getting down nutrition or
well,
experiences of your own.
yeah, I think I do have a nervous belly, and eating is not my strong point in exercise. But I've noticed that it's really just nerve related. That once I've worked on like how to like, they say there's like in performance, there's you need some nervousness and excitement. So to balance those, once I was able to balance those two out, it's easier for me to eat. And just find what you can eat. So I think the liquid energy is a really great option for someone who's having a hard time getting a gel down before a race. Like if we were racing right now, that would be my choice before a race would be.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, and I think everyone, certainly on this call, would, but even at GU, I think once we launched that product this summer, it was like we've been talking about it for years, and having the platform to say, look, now for everyone that has an issue or would like an introduction to the energy gel, but is hesitant about the consistency, especially, if you read the package of a gel, it says 5 minutes before every 45 minutes. And so to think, this is my first race or my first event, I have to take this gel 5 minutes before. Obviously, we would advise practicing your nutrition, but not everyone listens to instructions. And so now we have this liquid option that allows you to get in 100 calories, not bonk like I'm sure all of you have,
Yeah.
and feel good about what you're doing. So we're at about 40 minutes, and so I know we have 5 or 10 left with questions at the end, and so I want to make sure that we circle back on the main point of this talk. And so general consensus, well, we'll go around the room. Does flavor actually make you faster? Go ahead, Karen.
I mean, if you think about it, like, yes, because if you don't like the flavor, you're less apt to eat it. So
Sure.
if you're not eating calories, you can't necessarily be as fast as your potential because you're running on empty. So in that respect, I do think that if it is a flavor that is desirable for you, you are more apt to consume it.
Sure.
You would hope. And that will ultimately, as many times as I've learned this the hard way, it'll make you faster if you actually eat the foods.
That's right. And so Max made a good point. He stopped taking that energy, and nonetheless, 5 miles later, was feeling some trouble. And so, Max, does flavor make you faster?
Yeah, I'm with Karen on this one. Like, the more you can get in during your race or exercise or whatever, the faster you're going to be. And so if you can find those flavors that you actually want to be eating and actively want to be taking in, then it's gonna get you down the trail faster, the road faster, or whatever it may be. So yeah.
Nikki.
Yeah, from a nutrition perspective, same thing what they're saying. If you get the calories, the sugars, and the electrolytes, like, that's going to help you. It's cool because GU has so many different things to offer. And so I think you can't have a GU buffet like Jen and find what works for you. But then I think also, like, circling back to me saying that the birthday cake makes me happy, they've also done a lot of studies. Like, Karen, I know you're interested in this too. Like, if you have gratitude and a positive mindset, growth mindset, like, that happy racers go faster, right? And so I think there's a lot to be said about that. And a lot of the GU flavors make me happy. So
I love that. Jen, piggyback on that.
Yeah, actually, that leads in perfectly. Because I was going to say, flavors definitely make you faster by giving you all those happy feels. I definitely know I've associated different flavors with different experiences. And so I always have in my bag, I call it like my emergency GU, if you will, that, it's if I'm maybe having a rough workout and then I take it and it reminds me of either like a race or when I was riding with my friends and I just kind of like really embrace that feeling and that mood, then it can completely turn around, your workout, your ride. And I do love food. So the buffet and always looking forward to the next meal, if you will, throughout the ride is a double bonus.
Big fan of food.
Yeah, big fan. 10 out of 10.
Same. And so I love all of that. And I love that we talked about feelings and flavor. And you're right. And you all kind of spoke to this, that GU not only offers, dozens of flavors of energy gels, but we offer dozens of different types of products that you can take. And you all talked about all of them: the drink, the Roctane drink, the tabs, the hydration tabs, the gels between Roctane, regular energy gel, liquid energy, Stroop waffle, now the Boon waffle that launched in August. And I think that gives people a nice array to have a variety while they're working out and while they're exercising.
Almond butter.
Yeah, and the almond butter.
So good. Yeah. Like, the jars need to be like 3 times that size. They're so good.
Yeah, I think that people working on the jars would probably be very tired and have tired muscles from making them. But yeah, we could all use bigger jars for sure.
So good.
And so the last question that I have here on chat is a curveball to the flavor story we've been talking about. But Nancy asks if TerraCycling is easy to use, and if all of you TerraCycle your wrappers. Nikki, I love that face. So let's go ahead and start it off.
Our team, KS Kinda Women, we actually just did a TerraCycle campaign. We actually had, this is funny, I have it right here. We had a competition where we made our own TerraCycle box to keep our wrappers. And then we all went out to our local trailheads and picked up trash. So it was really fun, and it's cool because now I've been doing it. We did that, like almost a month ago, Jen?
I think so, yeah.
And so like now I've been like hardcore TerraCycling, like telling all my friends about it. So yes, it's very, very easy, and it's cool to do something good with your trash.
Yeah, it does, for sure. It goes back to that gratitude and feeling happy.
Yeah.
Jen, go ahead.
Yeah, see, so kind of piggybacking on that, sustainability is paramount in my life. It dictates a lot of my decisions and how I decide to live. And I was super pumped when we did the terrace cycling. And I actually, when I go to the trails and I ride, I try and make a story on my Instagram to let the local community know. And I bring my box with me. I'm like, if you have any wrappers, like put them in the terrace cycling box, which is super easy. And my box is almost full. And then I have a really bad habit of never taking the wrappers out of my jersey. But it works out because when I run them through the washer, then they're all clean and I can just put them in the box and they're not sticky.
What a silver lining that is. Glass half full from Jen.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about the terrace cycling.
Yeah. Max, what about you?
Oh, well, I have like all my goo wrappers probably from the last 2 years stuffed in a box right now, ready to go. The box is full. I just need to get it out the door. And that for me is the hard part. But I am so glad that Jen and Nikki have said this is easy, because that's what I actually need to do, is get the box out the door. But
out the door,
it's like a shoebox size box that is probably about 10 pounds now, because it's all of my wrappers from the last 2 years. So yeah.
How big is this box?
It's like a shoebox size, it's like not like super big, but it's packed very, very tightly. It's a lot of wrappers in there.
Yeah, definitely.
So when that goes to the TerraCycle place, they're going to be able to like recycle and make a lot of new stuff.
That's right. That's right.
You're like, it's a brick. It's already compressed.
Thanks to Max for this one. Karen, go ahead.
Oh man, I am the bad student of everybody. I am
This is good. It's a teaching moment.
Oh God, I am inspired by all of you, and I can't wait to do it because as you said, it is so easy. But I have not been doing it. I'm just
that's
honest,
okay.
But
we appreciate your honesty, and just to reiterate, not only is it fun, but you don't need to do it with just Goo Energy wrappers. You can do it with any wrappers that you find. And pro tip.
Uh-oh.
Suspense.
What's the pro tip?
We're all hanging.
I'm glad that it was just him that froze and not everybody, but
Karen, that would be
I take my Roctane. Am I back?
You're
back.
back.
Oh, you're back. You're back.
This is a pro tip.
That's the cliffhanger. I wanted to be super dramatic, freeze on purpose. I mean, tech guy over here. No, the pro tip is I take a Roctane energy drink canister, fill it up with wrappers, screw the lid on it, slap a label on.
Oh no, he froze again.
He's gone, but at least we got the pro tip this time.
Yeah, the pro tip. I'm gonna do that.
That is a good idea. Actually, I should do
really
that.
good idea.
Yeah.
You could do it with your kids. Have like a box
and head out the door.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
In my back. This is probably a good sign that we're coming up on time if my internet's kicking out on me.
You're back though, so you're good.
I'm good. So, well, I haven't had any questions come through the chat, but I want to take a minute to thank you all for being here on Thursday night. I know some of you, this is your evening, about to eat dinner, but I appreciate the time and the conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, thanks. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you. It was great.
Yeah, awesome. All right, signing off for now. Join us next week for another edition of ABCs of Sports Nutrition here, Goo Energy Labs. And have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.